All right. Welcome back to another state of mental health in the Black community. It's another wonderful day. I'm excited for this show. Very excited. I got some wonderful people that are waiting just to jump on with us. I see I'm just talking, just waiting for your arrival. I see there's a few people that just jumped on in. If you don't mind, just go ahead and sharing, letting people know that we are about to dive into this conversation here very shortly. All you need to do is hit that share button. Do me a favor. I'm going to do the same while I'm talking. I'm going to go ahead and share this live, let people know that tonight's a show you do not want to miss. You absolutely do not want to miss. If you were with us last night, you understand that we're talking about sensitive subjects, topics that we may only talk within our circle of people. And hopefully tonight that we can have a conversation, have a dialogue, address some issues that affect our community, maybe affect you. I know I'm not the only one that has an issue with their father, and I have some other people who are again awaiting to join us live. I'm sharing this right now. So while you jump on, if you don't mind sharing with me. Boom. All right. Seen a few just share. So I'm not going to delay the time. In a few seconds here, I'm going to bring in my lovely guest. Again, we're talking about tonight the structure of the Black family and the absence of a father. Even this may not be something that you can relate to. Maybe you know somebody in particular who has dealt with it, still was dealing with this, and this may be something that they might need to watch. Just go ahead and call them, text them, let them know that we are about to dive in right now. So I'm about to bring in all of my guests all at once. All right, I'm going to bring them in this particular order. As you see them on the flyer, we got Alan there coming in with me. Hey, I got Ashley coming in right there, followed by Mike Dean. Hey, everyone.
Hey Key, how you doing?
Good. Is everybody good? Can we hear everybody?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yep. Mike? Uh-oh. Mike, can you hear us? You good? Speak one time for us so I can hear you. I can't hear your audio. Uh-oh. Not yet. I hear clicking. Not yet. I still can't hear you. Hold on. I think I know why. Can you talk now? All right. Hold on. Let's figure out.
Oh, I was on mute.
All right. I saw mute, but it was like, I didn't mute you. So I was like, what's going on? All right. So everyone, we can hear each other, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. All right. Good. Good. All right. So I want at this moment in time, if you guys from Alan to Ashley to Mike, can you introduce yourself? Tell the people exactly who you are right before we dive into this conversation. I don't want people just think I just brought up some random folks here just just to bring on the talk. So Alan, you go first, and then Ashley, and then with Mike. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. As Keandra said, I'm Alan Irizarry Grave Senior now, as of 10 months ago. I'm a resident of Little Rock, Arkansas. Originally born and raised in Northeast Ohio, and I'm a youth and college pastor down here at a local church. So that's a little bit about me. I've been a husband for 3 years come Labor Day, as well as a father. Coming from a big family, grew up in foster care system, all of that is a piece of who I am and has impacted me in the way in which I do my ministry. And so I'm just glad to be here tonight. Thanks for having me, Kiki.
No, I appreciate it. Appreciate it. Ashley.
Hi, my name is Ashley Bennett. I am a two-time best-selling author. I'm a certified life coach. I'm also a minister of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And so thank you for having me. I look forward to contributing to the conversation.
All right, Mike.
All right. Can you hear me?
Ooh, go back up a little bit more.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I'm hearing static, but I can hear you very faint.
All right. You should be able to hear me now.
Give me some more volume.
I've got it maxed out.
I'm not sure what. It's very faint. You try to talk now and see what we can.
Can you hear me now?
So it's static.
Now.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm Mike Dean. I'm pastor of Power City Church here in Columbus, Ohio. And we have a small kind of a cell church in Atlanta. I'm also director of Franklin County Youth Build, Youth Over Us here in Columbus, where we work with young adults, 18 to 24, helping them with their GED, construction training, EKG, phlebotomy, placement, leadership development. Also, I'm on my way to becoming a bestseller. I wrote my first book, What If I Had a Father? The Man I Never Knew. And I got 3 more books I'll be bringing out within the next 12 months.
Awesome. So I told some people last night jokingly that I got 3 ministers. So they like, are they sure they can share the mic at the same time? And I believe we can do that tonight. So I know we got one. Mike, you said you're gonna be leaving out a little early at 7. That's fine. We're gonna make sure that you get all the airtime to share your story, of course. So with that, I first want to start off with the structure of our family until we bridge into the absence of the father. I know we're going to be on that one for a long time, but if we can, today, as I was thinking about the structure of the family and how I kind of want to start off with this, is when you think about, we've all shared this conversation off the air, when you think about our Black family, from slavery to now, we've always been a unit. We've always been together. And as you see now, we're going to get to that latter portion, talking about the absence of a father. My question to you is, where do you feel like the disconnect actually happened culturally wise, where we went from being together? And I know slavery is not a great thing to talk about, but we were all together. When we got free, we were still in the house with Big Mama, Big Daddy, Mama, Dad, aunts and uncles, cousins. We still housed together. And even then, if we didn't live together, we were still in the same block of neighborhood. But from that, we have totally disconnected our families for a number of reasons. But tell me your own personal opinion. It doesn't matter what order. Just jump in wherever. Where do you think the disconnect happened of our family structure when we literally lost the structure of our family? Anybody?
Well, I think it seemed like we were having momentum. Like we had momentum back in the 60s and the 70s in terms of the family structure. I mean, of course, slavery, you had the Willie Lynch letter that went out. You had the Jim Crow. You had just all these different things and the system, of course. But I think when I noticed it, because I was born in 1977, and the neighborhoods, as I was growing up, the corner stores, the carryouts, everything was in our community. We owned the IGAs, the gas stations. It was us, so forth and so forth. And then to me, once the crack epidemic came, then it shifted what our neighborhoods look like today. So to me, that was kind of one of the nukes I've seen in my lifetime that pushed families, because from there, fathers went to prison. It was like the night of the living dead. I want to say at the genesis of the crack epidemic, they didn't know what they were dealing with, especially in our communities. It wasn't all the social services that was out there to help you. Rehab facilities wasn't equipped to handle all of this. And therefore, everybody, I was a young kid and I saw it growing up. My mom was on drugs. She was on crack. Drugs was being sold out of my home. You know, so I watched them. I grew up in the midst of that. And to me, that's when, during my lifetime, that's when I saw the family structure really start to dissipate.
Oh, listen, I mean, with that part, I mean, I love the fact that we got different ages. I know we're pretty close to me, Ashley, and Alan. But Alan's younger than us, but still, he has a part and piece of where he believes disconnect, or even Ashley, where do you think we have lost our discord as a unit?
I think just based on my perspective, I think I came into it when that disconnect had already taken place. Growing up in the projects in Campbell, Ohio, I don't remember any of my friends having their dads present. And so, and I was with my biological family from birth to 4 years old. So that entire time, all I knew was women or their parents' boyfriend. I didn't know kids to grow up with their fathers. And so for me, I believe that disconnect had already occurred by the time I came on the scene in 91. But I do believe, as my brother said, the drug epidemic had a huge role on it. And then also the war on drugs that specifically targeted Black men and men of color. And then thirdly, I think a lack of economic opportunity. If you can't make money in a legal way, you'll resort to illegal methods to make a living. And oftentimes that comes with consequences, either be death, prison, or you have to always be on the run looking over your back, and you don't want to be connected to your family to save them. And so for me, I think it was already in place when I came in 91, but it was exacerbated by the drug epidemic that went on in the early 90s.
True.
Hey, so I can definitely attest to what he just said as far as primarily seeing females as the provider, as the caretaker, as the everything. And occasionally, you know, I would be visiting males in my family, grandfathers or uncles, but a lot of times it was either there was never marriage or there was divorce or separation. So I didn't see that kind of family structure consistently growing up. I just knew your mom is there and she's the one responsible for taking care of you. But I can definitely relate to what he said about the Willie Lynch letter and the intentional division that was put in place intentionally to separate, to divide. And so with that, I actually studied that at Kent State University. They have, I believe, the largest Pan-African studies or studies on African and African-American history between all the universities in the US. And so I learned a lot of history there. And I was like, wow, so we're still seeing the effects of that. And our Black males being the highest incarcerated, you know, being shown in the prison system or being represented in the prison system. So I definitely saw the effects of that.
Agree. And you know, I love the fact that people who aren't even on the show yet are chiming in. Queen Cookie, she gonna be with us. She ends our show on Saturday, and she said that she believes that when redlining put Black folks in projects, fathers weren't allowed to live with their families. That was a form of discord. And last night, if you guys get a chance to rewatch the replay from last night, Michael Johnson and JP both hit on this redlining, how redlining played a major, you know, influence, and to where we're at now. You know, it's hard to say that our past doesn't have an effect on our present, because clearly we're going to talk about that tonight and how much it definitely does have an effect. Earlier today, I was at work, and I don't know how I began to forget the word value, but we cannot move on to the next part without talking how the family structure obviously it places family values. If there's something that you can remember, what are some family values that you know that has been passed down in your family? And they can be small or big. They can be even a saying or a quote that you know you want to share with us that you know came from your family, or it could just be our family because you know we are melon. So what is something that we feel like has been passed down from our family structure to now is a family value of yours? It could be anything. It doesn't even have to be a woman, like oriented, gender oriented. It could just, because I don't know why I'm thinking dating right now, and I'm thinking about a saying that we said that if they can't use your comb, don't bring them home. That was for you brothers. If they can't use your comb, you know they say don't bring them home. But laughter's good, y'all. Laughter's good, but it was true, right?
Right.
About that. If she can't use your comb, baby, you know, when it comes to something that is that you think we have culturally, you know, we've took on, whether we embrace it or not.
I think just three things that I think I took on from my family lineage: the importance of hard work, the importance of respect, and respect isn't given, it's earned. And then also, I would say from my adopted piece of my family, the importance of education, because that is something that no one can take from you. So hard work, having people earn your respect and giving people respect when it's earned, and then also the importance of education.
Ashley, what do you think? You got some family values that
I think my mother really instilled in me a hard work ethic. She did it by example, and she always told me to focus on my grades, get a good education, finish what I start. If I put my mind to something, make sure I finish what I start. And my mom always taught me to use my voice. So sometimes that backfired because I was a little outspoken, so I would get in trouble as a kid, but it works for me now. So
yes.
Yeah. For me growing up, I when I think about my mom, you know, I think it was about more or less survival. And she taught me how to survive. Like my mom was all terrain. And meaning that, I mean, since we dealt with the crack epidemic for years. So we lived from house to house. I remember in the fourth grade, I failed the fourth grade because we moved like 9 times in 1 year. I remember we were homeless. And it would just she just taught us how to survive and how to defend ourselves and how to stand up for ourselves, and pushed us to stick together as siblings and as a family. Education was something it wasn't that pushed in my home because we had to survive. I mean, there were times where my mother wouldn't be home for 2 or 3 days, and since I'm the oldest, I had to figure out, okay, how are we going to eat? And so I learned to trade early on. I started cutting hair at 10 years old. And so I go out there and cut hair for $2, $3, take that $4 or $5 and go to the corner store, buy everybody a couple of things of Roman noodles. And I don't know, y'all young, but the big K 3 liters, I get the
I know what you're talking about.
And a bag of Doritos. So I think for us, all in all, it was about survival and never forgetting about where you came from and always putting God first.
Yeah.
Definitely. Respect was definitely given one taught in our house. Education is all you all said. It was definitely and I thought it was another one. Obviously having a relationship with God. You know, I know you all are ministers. I almost caught myself. I almost caught myself.
Come on, we.
I almost caught myself. We've all been taught, you know, to have a relationship, or maybe we found God. But with my family, with my grandfather being a deacon, my grandma being a mother deaconess, my mother wasn't have a title, but at one time, surprising looking back, I'm like, that was my mama. But yeah, she was head of the Vacation Bible School. She was the superintendent or director or what have you. And but that was definitely instilled in my family. And even to this day, you know, relationship with God is essential, you know, is needed. But I want to do this because I want to respect the time that we have with Mike. I'm going to just shift it just a little bit, if you two don't mind. Because family structure and the absence of father is something that goes hand in hand. We all going to agree with that. And so I'm going to let us share our stories about our fathers, the lack and that of Mindy. And then we're going to dive into the conversation because I don't want Mike to leave without having to add into some of these questions that I have in this conversation. Okay. So I'm going to start with first. See what I got. All right. I'm going to first start with Mike to Ashley to Alan. We're going to go work our way backwards. All right. So Mike, you shared with me something. Well, you shared with me on Sunday. You know, we just met actually, but your story was obviously powerful because Kiana, that's a plug there. Kiana Harper, who'll be with us on the next 2 days, told me, about you being an author of your book, and then you shared me personally about your relationship with, or the lack of the relationship with your father. So I want you to tell the people exactly what did that look like? What does it look like now? And don't tell us too much. To questions too.
Well, when I wrote my book, the first piece I called my superhero, because that's what I wanted. And I asked a question to myself because I never knew my dad growing up. I asked myself, do I look like my dad? I don't know. Do I walk like my dad? I don't know. It were questions I couldn't answer. And it was hard because my mother, she had 4 other children and they had the same father. And he was there, but he didn't place himself with us. He wasn't consistent. So he was in and out, but they knew him and he did things for me. He did things to the best of his ability. For me, I was always kind of jealous because I was put on the back burner. Moments when they went to cookouts and things of that nature, and I would hear through the grapevine that I had other brothers and sisters, I had other family. It was times my mother would try to get me to catch him, and I never saw him, so I would actually go to my grandmother's house, but she would look at me like that's not my grandson. So it was pretty hard. That's what I felt. And that's what I took from. I wasn't embraced. It was pretty hard, but some years ago, I want to say when I was 22 years old, I prayed a prayer and I asked God. I said, God, I don't want to raise. I'm not looking for a bonus. I just want to meet my siblings. And so from that point on, I started meeting brothers and sisters like out the wazoo. I probably met nine or 10 brothers and sisters since then. I don't have the greatest relationship with everybody. I'm not enemies with any of them. But I think for us, we are at a place now where I can go to their house and say what's up to them. Some of my nieces and nephews know me. When I first met my father, he was in prison or in jail. And my mother and a sister that I met pushed me to go see him. And I stuck my chest out, Kiki. I got my oldest daughter's named Kiki. I said, I'm a man now. I'm a boy, David. And, I just felt like I was at a place where I didn't need him. I'm kind of where I'm at, but deep down inside, there was still a kid in me wondering will I ever see him. So just to make it quick, I went to the county, and I went to where they told me, and it was hard for me because when I got there to visit, I had to sign in, and they said, "Who are you coming to visit?" I never had to write down Dad. I never had to say Dad. I never. I didn't know what to do there, and right. I was shaking when I was writing because I didn't know to say father, friend, whoever, and so I put I think I put Dad, and I went to the floor, and other people were there. I'm not used to going inside, going in and out of the walls of prison, and so I'm standing there, and I'm seeing all these people go visit their people. But I didn't know what my dad looked like. I never had a clear-cut picture or anything. So I had to wait till everybody saw their father, the person they were visiting.
Right.
and he was standing off, and he was just looking around and like, okay, who's here to see me? And I was like, okay, that must be him because everybody else is settled in. And so I walked up to his window, and I don't know if you can guess the first thing he said to me.
Now, what I'm gonna let you tell because you actually told the people, but now you didn't. He's deep.
He said, "Who are you?" And and my response was, "I'm Sandy's son." And so now I met him because he ended up getting out of prison, and I met him, but we still haven't went nowhere with it. He still haven't met my children or my wife and kids. We shook hands, but really nothing major. Haven't done anything with him, but I tried. I extended my hand, but I'm still praying. We're still here because my mother is not here anymore. My mom is deceased, so he's really all I have as a parent to try to keep that thing going on. So,
man, you gave me a little bit of your story on Sunday, but leading up to how you said it, like you did a big step by going to see him, and which is one of my questions coming up. So I'm glad you're still gonna be on for this part. I'm just gonna tease it out for even Ashley and Alan who are listening. When we're all done, the first question I want to ask is what role or what responsibility? So you got to wait for your question, your answer yet. But what responsibility is it on the child on restoring the relationship with the father? We're going to get to that. We're going to get to that. But first, I'm going to bring in Ashley. I'm going to let Ashley tell us about her story. And then Alan, and we'll be all right back together, all right?
Hey.
Oh, man. Ashley, I saw your reaction. I saw you. Oh, man. Did you hear Mike's story?
Yes.
Oh, man. Like, well, what's your thoughts before you go on? I'm going to get on your story.
I can only imagine the feeling, and I know we're about to get into my story. I can only imagine the feeling he felt when his father reacted like, "Who are you?" It's like, "You helped create me is who I am." Like, what do you mean who am I? So I can only imagine the emotions, the disappointment, the hurt, the questions. You're trying to find yourself in that person in that moment, and the rejection you might feel if you're not prepared for something like that. Even if you are, it's just so many things running through your head. So
much. Before you go on, Ashley, I want anybody who may be jumping in, jumping out, please share this. It's not about me. It's more about getting the story out. Last night, I asked the question. I was in my late night thoughts, and I thought, why not incorporate people into the show tonight? So I asked the question. I'll get to that later. But I asked people, if you have a distant relationship with your father, raise your hand. And if you have mended your relationship, drop an emoji heart. And then if you are still struggling, or you just don't have a relationship at all, use a broken heart. And there are so many people who responded with broken heart and hands. There were a few hearts that were mended. There was a few. But there's a young lady I know who's watching tonight, and she asked the question, and we're going to get to that question is, how do you deal with the brokenness? How do you restore? We're going to get to them. I'm teasing these questions. We're going to get to them. But first, I wanted y'all to hear these personal stories, and then we're going to get into the conversation. So, Ashley, tell us about your relationship with father.
Really quick, I'll give you a brief synopsis, as brief as I can. As Keandra knows, because she read my book, I wrote a book about my journey, and a part of that journey is overcoming abandonment issues that I experienced from not initially knowing my father the first basically 6 years of my life, and then meeting him, and then all the wounds I didn't even realize was there at the age of 6 just start coming up. So anger came up, like, where have you been? Have you tried to look for me? So my words were, where were you the first 6 years of my life? Because I realized that I had siblings and they were present with him. They spent time with him, but it was like, you weren't looking for me, you know? So where am I? I'm the missing puzzle that wasn't trying to be found. And so that was hard. And I didn't even realize the effects it would have on me, even in mending our relationship and building it. You talked about the roles. I don't know if you want me to get into this right now, but the roles.
Yeah, wait.
Okay, all right.
Well, you get to the roles, but don't give your answer as far as what is the child's role.
Okay.
What is our no, we go tease. No way yet.
Okay.
We going there.
I won't get into that. Okay, so I'll start just with my relationship with my father. Complicated situation. Everyone knows my family allowed me to share this, allowed me to basically be an open book for the sake of helping people, not out of bitterness, spite, hurt, etc. So, like I said, I did not meet my father until I was 6 years old. My mom, she was a teenage mom. She had me at the age of 18. I did not meet my father until I was 6 years old. He was actually married during my conception. And so it was a really complicated situation. I knew I had a father, but because females were so present in my life, and I saw so many moms raising kids, I never questioned, why don't I have a dad around? It was just normal, where I saw blended families. So it was just normal. The neighborhood women helped raise the kids in the neighborhood. So I didn't even realize there was a piece of me that was missing. I knew my mom constantly reminded me, this is your father's first, middle, and last name. But it was like, he was like this fairy tale image. And it was like, that's it. I know mom's present. And so when I met him, the first, I want to say year or so, I called him by his first name because I didn't feel comfortable calling him dad, father, etc. I felt like that title just wasn't earned. I mean, obviously he helped create me, but when you don't help look for me in the first place, I just didn't feel comfortable embracing him yet. And so I was, like I said, I've been very vocal since I've been a child, something my mom instilled in me that sometimes got me in trouble. But I feel like it's important for a child to have a voice and not bottle things in, that which can create more issues in the long run. And so I will say this, although I've had a lot of ups and downs with my father, the thing I can say is he was present. The thing I can say is me and my siblings, we all have different mothers. Everyone worked together. No parent was petty. No one was a petty Betty. And didn't allow the kids to come together to form a relationship. One thing that I also really appreciate about my mother is she always wanted me to form my own opinion about my father. She never planted seeds of, your daddy is no good, your daddy didn't, she never did that. And if there was any struggle between them two when I was growing up, she never allowed me to see it. And so if I ever experienced something, it was based on what I observed or what I personally experienced myself. So I will say I had the relationship of not knowing my father to knowing him and building a relationship with him. And I think I had to learn over time this fairy tale expectation of you're about to automatically take on this full role of being like the knight in shining armor, the protector, the provider, being available to me, being the one whose shoulder I can cry on and you're about to pick me up and say, where's the boo-boo at? Who, it wasn't always that. But what I can say is I know it will be a bigger void in my life if I had no relationship with my father. I never knew who he was. So I will say that he has always been present since the age of 6. Had there been some wounds that needed to be healed? Yes. But I will say that he has tried, I believe, maybe the best he can be as a father. So, yeah.
All right. I like that. That was a short synopsis because I know there's more, but we don't hold nothing back. Now, we talked about this. We're not holding nothing back tonight.
Okay.
So Alan, I'm going to bring you in. I'm going to let you tell our story about your relationship with your father, and then we're gonna get into it, guys. We diving in as soon as you get done. Whatever you got to say, we in there.
So my relationship with my father is quite interesting. It's so complicated. I don't really know where to begin. So I'll begin when our relationship began. Um, my mother was my dad's side chick. And so he was married. I got a sister that's less than 9 months younger than me. And we grew up 5 minutes apart. The most vivid story I remember of my father is that when I came home from the hospital, he threw me in the trash can because he didn't think I was his. And I was left there. And that kind of sets the trajectory for my relationship with him. I've probably only seen my father good 15 times in my entire life, and that is being very liberal. And most of the interactions that we've had have been contentious in some way, shape, or form. The interesting thing is that I'm the kid that looks the most like him, but I'm the only child born of him that doesn't have his last name. And so I'm the Irizarry. The rest of my siblings are Meadows, which is quite interesting to me. The other piece of this is we've tried numerous times to reconcile. I've made a conscious decision for myself. It's just best that we don't, for a variety of reasons. My main one is I need to prioritize my own well-being and my own health. Therefore, I need to make sure that I'm okay because clearly you ain't gonna take care of me and make sure I'm okay. And then I feel like he wasn't a great father because he took care of his wife's family but didn't take care of my mom. And then the other piece is when I went into foster care, he didn't come get me. And he knew where I was. As a matter of fact, he showed up. Um, he showed up to the court cases and all of that. And I don't know all the details, but I feel like any father would want their child. So that's kind of a relationship I have with my father in a nutshell. One interesting story I had, myself and my brother, we went to the same school, his son with his wife and me with my mother. And I told the teachers that it was this random stranger bothering me because he was trying to talk to me and stuff, and I didn't want to be bothered by him. And I've always been like that since I've known him. And unfortunately, I'm not like Ashley. My mama told me he ain't no good. He ain't no good. He don't want no good for you. Don't deal with him. And so that has played an impact into it. But then he's confirmed that to be true in a lot of ways as well.
Hey, we learned more about your. I learned more about your story again this past weekend, and you're kind of the reason, as well as Ashley, as well as Mike, as to why some of these questions are repeated, like were in my mind. So let me just bring everybody back, and let me just bring everybody back into the conversation. I saw y'all. I just want y'all to know, Mike, I saw your reactions. Ashley, I see you as well. You know, y'all may be out. They can't see y'all, but I can see y'all's reaction. So let me just go and put the question out there. Well, before I put it out there, did y'all want to feedback off of anybody? Mike, I know I asked Ashley feedback off of you. AI, did you want to feedback off Ashley's or Mike's? You know, just because those are stories. We're family here, y'all. We family. And so I don't want us to feel like we're just asking questions without even like bridging so much of a gap, you know, like the closeness between us. So yes.
I really love Alan's transparency. I feel like his transparency, even though I'm known to be a pretty bold person, at times, which Keandra could tell, that's why she was like, no, we're opening up tonight, because at times I'll start pulling back because I'll feel this guilt that I had to constantly rid myself of, because our feelings and our experiences are real. And sometimes it can come across as being disloyal to someone or trying to bash someone. It doesn't mean that they're not a good person in some ways. This is my experience. And I feel like, especially in the Black community, there could be other communities too, but in the Black community, we always have to just shut up. We always have to, be loyal to family. We can't express ourselves without being attacked. And I think
the truth will make you free.
Yes. And I think that
Come on, Bridget.
mental health issues because our voice is stifled. So thank you, Alan, for your transparency. So I'm gonna be all the way transparent too.
Listen, and I say that because Ashley knows that before we got on, I said my daddy was on my show last night, and he may jump on tonight, and he may be offended. I'm gonna chime in for 1 second, just tell my story. I know I'm hosting it, but I also want those who are watching, to know I don't have the best relationship with my father either. And this is not a disrespect. I do want to pause and say that this is not a disrespect to our fathers. We all understand that fathers matter. There's a question that we're going to talk about the voice of the father, that of a physical and the spiritual. We're going to get there. But my father wasn't in my life either. My father told me at the age of 6 years old, I don't want to see you or your mom anymore. I'll leave you for a white woman. 7 years, I didn't go see my father. I seen him again at the age of 13. I wrote a letter to him trying to figure out why he said what he said when I was 6. All he could do was get mad at my mom for her allowing me to send this letter to his address. Because the only 2 words he saw was white woman, and because he was still with that woman. Here we are. I think we're on our day round 3 or 4 of mending our relationship, like round 3 or 4, mending our relationship. And we went, like I said, 7 years went out. Then I see my dad, and then he stopped talking to me, I think around 22. Then we went another 4 years. And so, yeah, we're on round 3. We're on round 3. And I'm going to just say that we on round 3. We're, if you want to think baseball terms, we have 3, but we ain't got the home plate, which is a mended relationship. We haven't got there. So I'm teasing enough, y'all. Y'all better have your answer. And I'm saying better. That's not good language. But you better have your answer. The question is, what is the child's role in restoring a relationship with their father? Because if you haven't been told this, I've been told I needed to be the bigger person and mending the relationship. And so I believe now at 31 years old, that is not my responsibility. If anything, maybe part, but I don't even believe that. So AI, Ashley, I already see y'all face, Mike. So y'all just tag teaming. Y'all go. Y'all go.
I think it was Shakespeare that said, when a father gives to a son, both laugh. When a son gives to his father, both cry. And, sit here, it's painful that you have to do it. Like, that's it. Because it take work. It take thought. It's like, it's something you feel like you shouldn't have to do. It's like you playing tug of war. It's like, do you want me? Do you care about me? When I look at my children see me every day. I go to their rooms every night. I kiss them. I tease them. I tickle them. I discipline them. I tell them I love them. I tell them how pretty they are. I tell them they're going to be something. If I got to, and I tell them the truth, but for me, I can never understand why my dad wouldn't give me that. So to kind of be straight up with your question, it's the father's part. I think it depends. It's because in life there's ages and stages, right? So, and you just don't know what your father had to go through to even survive. So sometimes they have a backstory. My father was a kingpin, and I don't want to go too deep because I don't know everything, and I don't want to put nothing out there. But I took a stab at the drug life, the street life, and I understand. I'm like Biggie Smalls, keep your family and your business completely separated. But at the same time, I always wished I had him. Always wished I had him. So for me, my answer would be, the father should, but sometimes you just don't know the situation, and it's real out there. I mean, it's real. I think my father should have. Here's one quick story. I think I was 12 years old, and I went outside to play. And my mother's friend came up to me and said, I just saw your dad. I said, who, Marvin? She said, no, your dad, and named him. I said, my dad? At that point, I never seen him in my life. And so as a kid, I still got hope, and so I ran around to that park. I ran to that park like Flash Gordon. I mean, and I got there, nobody was there. And it crushed me. It was like, and I went back to her, I said, my dad wasn't there.
Yeah. I think we've all might have been left there with dad wasn't there. Broken promises when he was supposed to come pick y'all up. Time to pick up. That's not me. Y'all talking. I'm just moderating.
Nah, you're a part of this too. Don't you from you here with us.
Hey, Ashley, chime in. Let us know. I agree. I feel like, especially during childhood, and depending on when you get the opportunity to meet your father, like Mike, it was a later age. So I feel like at some point it was always his father's responsibility if he knew. And so with my father, and this is something he's openly admitted in a radio interview, so it's not like I'm putting him on blast. He said it himself that he did not plan to look for me. And so, he didn't. He said that. But I can handle hearing that because I knew it was an initial plan for me to be aborted. I knew it was never in the plans for me to be born. And so my mom made the choice as a teenage mother, I'm going to carry on with this. And she couldn't conceive any more kids after me. So thank God she didn't get the abortion. However, I knew that for a long time I carried resentment because I had this image of wanting to be this daddy's girl, or the image our relationship is supposed to be a certain way. And so when you have expectations consistently unmet in certain areas, then it builds resentment. And so, yes, I will say this, and I talked to you about this, Keandra. I will say I definitely commend my father because unlike the stories that Alan and Mike share, my dad did once he was like, you know what, okay, I'm going to take responsibility. She is my child. I'm going to bring her into the fold. She's a part of the family, and I'm going to take care of my responsibilities. But in some ways, in certain instances, I felt like there was potentially some resentment there. It's like, oh, I got to pay child support. I was always reminded about that. Like that's not my fault that you conceived me. Now you have to be responsible because my mom didn't go through with aborting me. So that's not my fault. And I shouldn't feel reminded of that, like I'm a mistake, And so, but he'll be proud of my accomplishments. But I also felt another side of resentment. And so it was really hard for me. It was like a battle, but I knew in his heart he loves me. And I think, like, to Mike's point, you don't know the backstory. And I know my dad did not grow up knowing his father. And I know that has contributed in some ways to the way he parents and sees things. But at a certain point, there's so many resources to help you become better, or self-help, some therapy, something, there's obviously God too, but there is a responsibility we have to take, because if we always go to God saying, well, I'm this way because that's just the way I am, instead of saying, okay, I need to be transformed, so help me transform. I want to be better. And so I had to get to the point of always humbling myself to try to make that relationship work. And I felt
that's draining. That's draining.
It is draining.
Can we all speak on that? We've all, come on, y'all. I'm an audience member, like everybody, because I've been there too, y'all. I just told y'all we on round 3. We still ain't even made it.
Yeah.
By y'all moment. Like, just to tag in for just a little bit, that's what you said, and Alan, you come right there, is when you talked about earlier about having like this shining armor, image of your father, and you wanted your dad to be, the protector, which we all, I believe, wanted our dad to be the protector. We wanted him to be in our household. None of us asked for him not to be there. And it sucks when you feel like you have to do all this work. I mean, especially when, I'm going to be honest and say, it sucks when people show you that they really want you to do all the work. And what I mean is, I felt like I was harassing my own father. Like, I would call him, he wouldn't pick up. I text him, or respond. but you have the nerve to be on Facebook. The nerve to be on Facebook. Green light on.
Getting likes.
Are you serious? And my dad loves memes even now. So he loves to share them. You got the nerve of sharing it 15, 40 minutes ago when I sent you a message. I'm not supposed to be this person. I was supposed to be very calm. But it bothered me. Like, I felt like I was doing more work than I needed to. Like, I didn't actually be here. We can all commit. We didn't actually be here, y'all.
Right.
And regardless if you didn't choose you didn't so-called choose your partner, you did though. You did.
Mm-hmm.
You did. But yeah, you go in. Because I need to actually go charge my computer wants to die on me. So let me go fix that.
Yeah, I think in no way, shape, or form is it the child's responsibility to mend relationship. And I think sometimes we're taught through thinking about, family lineage and what's ingrained in us. Just make it better so that you will be all right. No, for me, I'm not doing that. Because and I wrestle with it honestly because I'm a pastor. I'm supposed to be the one who advocating forgiveness, grace, and mercy. But at what cost? The Bible also says, should we sin so that grace may abound? I'm not about to keep setting up myself for failure and get my little feelings hurt because I want a relationship with you and you do stupid stuff, or you just act like I don't exist, or you show up to see your one son and I'm in the same choir concert and you act like I don't even exist. Nah, I'm good. And then you try to appease me with these short elementary gifts. Y'all remember them Razor scooters came out?
Yeah.
This fool, I'm sorry, I don't feel no. This me. This fool had the audacity to drop a Razor scooter off at my house where I was adopted at. That's it. But I want a relationship. I don't need your stuff. And so for me, it's no way, shape, form the child's responsibility. I think the parent, the adult, should engage in that because it's unfair to a child who doesn't have the resources, the skills, or the mental capacity to do that work. And so I think in some ways we make things work when we put that responsibility on children to do that work. And it's not meant for them to do that.
Now, in respect with time, Mike, I want to ask you this question that relates to you and AI. You both can relate to this. And that is the question of, I want to make sure I, ask a question and somebody said something. Let's all read it together. It's certainly not, but fathers think it's our responsibility. Then we try our feelings to get hurt. Try our feelings get hurt. And heart get broken over and again. I'm over it. They just need it. Nope. I'm sorry. I'm just running over it. I'm over it. I just really need to really forgive and move on. In my life, yeah, true peace. But you know what? We're gonna relate to that. Right after this question, because there's a question that she talks about. So there's a statement she said about forgiving and moving on and getting a sense of peace. And I think we need to tap onto that. You know what? She asked it. Let's answer now. How do you, or how have you all, forgiven this person, whether it's been verbally to them or not verbally, indirectly to them? And how have you moved on? And can you honestly, this is a loaded question. Sorry, I'm good with loaded questions. I'm sorry. I just all at once. And have you truly moved on? Meaning, for me, when I mean that, there's still not a little kid in you that still wants your dad. That not meaning bitterly. We all want our dads. But there's still not a little kid in you that's bitter and heartbroken. So we got the question, how have you moved on? And how have you forgiven your father? And, is that little kid still in you? So anybody can tag team this. Mike, my bad. This isn't the one for you and AI. I got one more for you and AI before y'all leave. But anybody can chime into this.
Yeah, I think I'll respond to that. How did I move on? I got to a point where I was tired of being hurt. I went through so much as a kid as a result of my parents' negligence that I had to survive on my own, kind of like Mike. He had to raise his siblings, but My brother Donald raised us. My mom would be gone for days at end, trying to hustle to make money as well, so she could support the family. And so for me, I came to the realization that no matter what I did, it wasn't going to rectify the situation. Therefore, it made more sense for me to put my energy toward just being a better person myself. And my greatest dream in life, I'm a pastor. I don't care about that. Like, I got degrees. I don't care about that. I want to be a father because I never had that from my father. Now I had good examples. I was adopted by a loving family. I had a great father. He became my best friend, all of that. But still that little piece of me was like, nah, this don't suffice. This is a substitute. And we know how it is when it's a substitute in the class. It's just not the same. And so I wanted to provide everything for my son that I needed. And so instead of putting energy towards my dad and what he didn't do, I said, I'm going to ensure that my life will be one in which I could raise my kids like I wanted to be raised.
Wow.
Am I perfect? No. Have I forgiven him? Yes, I have. And I knew I forgave him when I got to the point. I had a real conversation with him, and I just put it out there. I said, you act like my son, and I act like I'm your daddy. I said, but I must tell you this because it's what I need to tell you. I hate that you couldn't father me.
Yeah.
I said, but I still love you. And that was my release that I needed. I got his number in my phone now. If I wanted to, I could call, but I got what I needed. And so that little kid is no longer in me. I've shifted my energy to being the best father I can be, not only for my biological children, but for my nieces, my nephews. I'm a youth pastor. I got 200 kids here. Let me be your father, because I also know the importance of having father-like figures for students and kids who don't necessarily have a father. Everybody don't have the opportunity to revive a relationship for a variety of reasons.
Wow.
Wow. I know you
That's
have
deep.
to go soon, Mike. Do you want to go before?
Oh man, for me, by the time I met my father, I was already established. So I had a construction company. I was working. I was traveling the country. I already kind of found myself. I was already preaching and teaching, but that was a missing element. For me, I was looking for affirmation because I knew that it was bigger than me, and then I knew that there was it was going to affect generations. I needed to meet my siblings. I needed to meet my nieces and nephews. Therefore, my relationship with them, those that I can have relationships with, or I've have relationships with, they love me. They call me Uncle Mike. They don't call me the preacher. They don't call me the author. They run to me. They call me. They want to spend the night on my house. So for me, that helps. And that's what I was looking for. I'm like, if I can't get a relationship, if I don't have a relationship with him, let me have a relationship with everybody else.
Yep.
That was my situation. When my dad left, I was told I could speak to, basically left, and then somehow the system got involved, and they were like, well, who do you want to still talk to? Because there was a child support, a whole bunch of stuff going on. And I said I want to talk to my grandmother, my siblings, and that didn't happen just because my relationship was, if I couldn't have my daddy, I didn't want nothing else. That's really what it turned into. If I couldn't have my daddy, I didn't want my grandma, I didn't want my siblings, I didn't want my aunties, I didn't want none of y'all. Like, I wanted my dad. I'm 6 years old. Sorry. But when you're 6 years old, for you who's your father of 4 daughters, what 6 years you look like 4 times at least.
Yeah.
That's young, innocent, and you don't know nothing.
Yeah. But they can't picture life without me.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I wanted. So that's what I give. Gandhi said, be the change you wish to see.
Yeah.
So for me, right now, the reason why I'm leaving early is because I volunteered to coach my daughter's basketball team.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to sit on the sideline. I get in the game free. But I'm working with her on basketball. I'm challenged. I got another group of my kids that helped me at the church do film work and video work. So for me, I just wanted somebody to pour into me.
Yep.
You know, pour into me. Give me your wisdom, and give me knowledge so I can earn my wisdom.
Ashley, and then Mike, can I do actually one question before when Ashley comes back? Can I ask you one?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so Ashley, chime into that question, and then we'll go back into this other one.
Okay. Forgive. The question was. Can you restate the question one more time?
How do you, forgive your father, whether it's directly or indirectly? And to move on, because this individual is asking, how can they move on? Because, and they're grown. If I can add, I know this individual is asking, but she's around our age, and so she's added, she's asking for help, y'all.
Okay, I would say an immense part of what helped me was going outside of my family's opinion, because sometimes the mentality was the same throughout different family members. So I went to them like, how should I handle this? Well, we all dealing with the same person, or we all had the same mentality or been taught the same thing. So I realized I needed some professional help for some of the issues I had. Mm-hmm. So I went to therapy. I had a pastor give me spiritual counsel. I had a clinical psychologist, and I had a professional licensed counselor. Okay. And I can call any one of them at any point in time to schedule appointments if I need to this day, if I need to. But I would say I needed, because I had to unlearn so many things, so many negative things that I learned. And I had to realize I did have a voice, and I didn't have to adhere to what I was being taught. Like the Bible says to honor your mother and father, but I really had to understand what that truly meant. Like, was I being a bad kid? But it also says not to provoke your child to anger. And so I felt like that's the scripture that's looked over sometimes. And so it's hard. So I would say, one, I had to do some work on me. I had to stop trying to look to him to fix some of the brokenness on the inside of me. And I had to just focus on myself first. In my adulthood, especially, because I realized I have you helped create me, but I have my own identity outside of you. And so I had to go to therapy, which has helped a lot. I also had a core support group that God just allowed to come into my life. Most of which they're Christians, and they're, big on their faith and praying. But I have like many family members or people who consider me like family outside of my family too, as well as some good people in my family. But God just brought people, mentors, and people who were there to support me. And so I would say when I first started going to therapy in 2013, one of the pastors I consider like a father figure, he's out in Arizona. But one of the pastors, like, he showed me what a truly good father is. I have heard no one speak ill of him. His daughters rant and rave about him, his wife, his grandchildren. He is like on point, always was there, protective, providing, sharing himself as a leader of the gospel, being a great example. And he was that to me. He has been that to me. And he adopted me like a daughter. But it was hard for me at first when I started dealing with the fact that my dad may never be like that. It was hard for me to be around him at family functions, because I don't know if it was envy or that I was like mourning, because I felt like, will I ever have that? Will I ever get to that? Like, why is it that they got that and I got this? And so it was hard. And when my dad, at that point, when he was reaching out to me in text messages, when we're dealing with a multitude of family issues, him and I were dealing with one-on-one secretly, it was like, I didn't want to hear anything he had to say. I didn't even want him to call himself my father at that point. It was very hard. So it took me from that point being able to say, you know what? I'm content with who I am now. And I realized it's so many people, like they said, so many kids you're reaching and everything, that is bigger than what you went through. That I'm not going to let this thing take hold of me and just completely take me out. So I realized I had to let it go. Forgiveness is letting it go and you moving forward. That's really what it is. And to your point, Alan, that always doesn't mean reconciliation.
Yep.
And that's what my new book coming out August 31st is about. It is about forgiveness. Yes, glory to God. It's called Layers and Levels, The Freedom of Forgiveness. But I talk about the layers I had to go through with family members, with my father, with myself, before I got to the point of being able to let go and truly feeling free.
And I hope the young lady who asked that question got her answer. If not, later we will be exchanging IGs, Facebook, and all that information. But Mike, before you leave, I'm obedient. Okay, I'm obedient. So let me just tell you this, y'all. These next couple of nights, like starting tonight, the next couple of nights conversations, I believe we're gonna need a part 2. So it's okay that you gotta leave. AI, we already know. Actually, we're gonna have to work our schedules out, but we'll get another part 2 in this because I don't want people just to be left off with your story because there's so much about your story. Plus, your book is impacted with your story. So what I'm gonna ask this question, and then I'm gonna ask you sometime tonight to come back and at least plug in your book and how they can buy it, like Amazon, however, so at least people can come back. And when we do a part 2, because we will, I want your book information to already be there. I want people to already say they bought it. So here's the question. How has being not fathered in a sense, biologically, affected you being a father, like the positive note? Now, I've heard you guys mention it, you, AI, and Mike, or AI we've talked about offset, but I feel like as a man, it has to play a big part on not being a father and now being a father. And with you being a father of daughters, you see me and Ashley here being the woman's side, but you played a very pivotal point in your daughter's life because you're supposed, as I was taught, a father is supposed to be a daughter's like first love in the sense of what a man she would want to have and aspire for. So how has not being father shaped you and molded you to be the father that you are now?
It made me more aggressive. I'm very, very protective. Let me say something real quick to the sister that had the question. Okay. I'm sorry. I gotta say it's not your fault.
Mm-hmm.
It's not your fault. And once I got past that, I was able to begin my healing. And I think that's where liberation came. Is when I was able to embrace that and own it and say, you know what, this was not my fault. Because when my mother had me, she was raped.
Mm.
So, but that's a whole nother conversation. But to answer your question, I think for me, it just came natural, and I never could understand why on the other end. I'm like, man, it's easy to be a dad. It's like, it's not hard. All you gotta do is be there. All you gotta do is show up. I don't think it's like a manual per se on like, here's all these steps. Although my next book is called Fathernomics, The Laws of Fatherhood, where I'm gonna get into some of those things. But I love being a dad. Is it a challenge? Yes, it's a challenge. I'm gonna tell you a quick story. My oldest child was saying something to me about a year ago. She said, she made a statement, and I'm paraphrasing. Said, "Dad, you treat your youngest daughter or my youngest sister different than you treat me." Said, "Why?" I said, "Well, when you was a kid, when you was growing, I was growing.
Mm.
I was still trying to figure out how to be a father while I was raising you. Now I'm a different man now."
Yep.
So the thing about being a father, you grow and mature in the fatherhood, because everything starts out in the seed form. Every relationship starts out in seed form. There's a force there, but it's up to the planner to develop that force. And for me, being a father, I'm going to turn my seed into a force.
Man, I felt that. I don't know if anybody else felt that. I'm not even a father or a mother, well, quote unquote mom, but I felt that thing right there. All right, Mike. I'm gonna be obedient. I know you gotta go.
Thank you so much. I can't wait to see her play.
Yeah.
Hey, yeah.
We don't wish her good luck. I want to be respectful to people.
Man, I wish y'all well. Ashley, nice meeting you. Alan, man, Ashley got to teach me how to be a bestseller. Alan, man, I love you, man. Look at
Love
me.
you too, bro.
I got love for you, man. Wakanda for I feel something there, man. Get my number, man, please.
I got you. Yes, sir.
All right, y'all take care.
No
You
problem.
too.
Thank you, Mike. All right, y'all. We still gonna roll with these questions. And so, AI, I want you to answer that because you are a father. You are a new father.
Right.
And you told us your story, and I like how you kind of gave a short synopsis of your story because, AI, if I have permission to kind of tell me, I took my notes.
Go on. Yes,
All right.
ma'am.
So I took my notes on AI's story, and let me just paint a better picture. I can't tell a story for him, but I just feel like we just need to see the man that he is now without the father that he stands. I love AI. I met him in, I believe, towards his end of high school years, and I love him. But when he talks about his life to where he is now, he shared with me, mom was on drugs, and this is the part that I want to share. The fact that he was in a foster system, and I had some friends who I talked to at work about this. You say you're in a foster system at the age of 4, and you didn't get to a family until like about 10. But
Yep.
yet in 5 years or so, you spent in 8 different foster homes.
Mhm.
Okay. The father that he loves and cherished that I didn't get a chance to meet is no longer with him. He passed away just 6 years ago.
2014.
Yeah, so the man that you see before us, y'all, he looked great on paper, but he went through a lot. So when he talks about how he may feel about his father, you may be like, "Oh, he a preacher," because nobody said it yet. But we know people thinking it. Like he a preacher. He don't want to talk to his dad. That doesn't describe him or make him less of a man because he chooses not to have a relationship with his father. We understand that for those who may just be jumping on. It may not be good in everybody's situation to have a relationship with their father. We may all want to and strive to have that relationship with our father, but the reality is, it sucks for me to say that. It may not be good, and it sucks for me because I still want my father. Like I want my father whenever my Boaz come, I want him to walk me down, But how can you give something away that you never?
Yeah.
So let's go ask that question I wrote down. How did you, AI, prepare for your wedding and actually in your future wedding when you ever get married? How are you preparing yourself for that? I mean, AI, you've been married. I mean, you are married, so you've already telling your story. But Ashley, what is your vision? So I'm gonna let him talk so you can get your thoughts together because I see your face. But AI, how did you envision your wedding? Because your parents are supposed to be there.
So it's interesting. I made hard decisions about who was at my wedding. First, I'm not gonna pay for people that I don't know or that ain't talked to me in 20 years. I'm not. That's just not me. I'm really straightforward. You know where you stand with me and where you don't. So none of my biological family was at my wedding. I don't really have a relationship with them. And part of that is me keeping my own mental sanity. And the other piece is they have to want a relationship as well. Now, my 2 brothers who I got adopted with, foster care with, all of that, they just couldn't be there. And one of them asked me for a ride the day of my wedding, and I said, I'm not doing that. So it was quite difficult because I felt 2 losses. The loss of my biological family, and then secondarily, my father died. I was married September 2nd, 2017. My father died July 19th, 2014. And I wanted him to be there. My dad never got to meet my wife because he had Alzheimer's, dementia. He was in the nursing home for 5 years. Even if he would have met her, there's a high likelihood he wouldn't even know what was going on. And so that was very disheartening to me, just being honest. But once again, I have to choose how I channel my energy. Yeah, it was sad. I'm not denying that. I'm not negating that. But I chose to use what my father showed me and what he taught me and the great father that he was. I call him Pops, Paul Graves. I chose to use what he embedded into me to be a great husband, to be a great father, just to be a great man. I mean, in my community, I mean, all the boys came to my house. You know, we had a basketball hoop on the street. If you wanted to eat, you know, you could come to the Graves house. But you knew my daddy wanted to play. If he told you not to do something, don't do it. And he was the neighborhood dad. And so I just fell in love with that peace. And one of the greatest things at my father's funeral that blessed me, I ran a summer program at my church, and all of my kids were at my dad's funeral.
Mm.
And to me, that was a testament of not me and the impact that I'm making, but the impact he made on me that is continuing to live on through the work that I get to do. So having 50 kids there, like, it was beautiful, which is weird. Like, we ain't signed a release or nothing. These kids just showed up at the funeral. Like, what's up? I'm like, okay. Yeah. So like that's what broke me down. Because he already imparted stuff into me that I know will continue to live on through generations to come. But just seeing how I've kind of taken on him in me is really cool. And it's weird because now I have another responsibility. My mom is a widow. And so, like, taking on an additional role of fatherhood, like, I'm not just taking care of my kids, I'm taking care of my dad's wife too, my mom. And so that has been a tremendous blessing, and just another topic for another day. But I ain't like my mom till my dad died. I was like, she's so mean. And mama, if you listening, you already know that. So I just didn't. Like, we butt heads because me and my mom are so much alike. Like, but when my dad left, I just knew, because what he taught me, you got to take care of women. Like, you have to take it. They come first. I know you guys still gonna take care of them, and you're gonna be all right. So I know that is like kind of a tangent, but that's what really, really like impacted me the day of my wedding. And seeing how though he wasn't physically present, his essence was present and continues to be present in how I father and how I husband.
Respect that. I respect that. That's hilarious though about your mom. I'm just gonna laugh.
Kiki, now you know my mama.
I do know your mama, and I ain't gonna lie, I'm still scared of myself. But but I just respect her. I respect her. Oh, but yeah. Oh, we need laughter, y'all. We need laughter. Before Ashley gets in, I did not ignore these comments that are happening, but I do want to mention for anybody who's just chiming in, we are still talking about family structure, because this does play in family structure. So I don't want anybody to think, well, we're just bashing daddies, because that's not what we're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to share our stories that are not alike. They're not alike. The reason why I invited Ashley on here personally was about mending, and we haven't got there completely yet, but we're going to answer that about trying to mend a relationship with our father. The reason why I got AI and Mike was on here was because of the disconnect of a relationship with their father. Given their disconnect happened for different reasons, different situations. Yes, they both talked about how there was a history of drugs being used in their family, but even still, we all know family members who've had a history of drugs and have came out. We also know people who've been in prison and have also came out. So we can't always, they matter, like drugs and and being in prison, they matter. But we also have seen people come on the beauty side of that. So what we're talking about today is sharing these stories and how we can all get a sense of freedom is what I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
A peace of mind is what I wanted. For the fathers who are watching, I want you tonight, if you feel led to, hug your loved ones that are in your care, or the ones that are not. Call them up, let them know that because we are still children.
Yep.
Fathers who may not be hurting to the degree that we get hurt when we were kids, but we still long for the father. But because we're gonna get to the spiritual father here, Ashley talks about how she's preparing herself for that day when she becomes a wife. What your father? What's his part? Because he's a pastor too. So is he officiating your wedding?
I wasn't even going to mention that my father was a pastor.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, he is a pastor. But anywho, I will say this: I battle back and forth because, as I stated, I've had highs and lows. Keandra has been present she's met my father. She's been invited when my father has opened his home to do stuff and cook a big meal and have some of my friends just come over for a day of relaxation and all that. So I will not say our relationship is completely bad. I think for me, I know that, I guess you could say the love language, if you ever read the book, The Love Languages, just, I would say in the last couple years, 2017 was just a crazy year for me. 2017, me and my father didn't speak for most of the year, just because we just kept going through things and I had to set boundaries for myself. And sometimes when I try to make a point, I will make a full point and say, okay, enough of this. I just can't be around like that, because as Alan was saying, and as Mike was saying, how many times am I going to keep trying before I hit this brick wall, before I feel like I'm getting punched in the face, before it feels like my heart is getting ripped out all over again? And so when you forgive, it doesn't always mean reconciliation, as they stated, because sometimes it can be harmful for you mentally, emotionally, spiritually, to let somebody back in certain spaces. That doesn't mean you have to build a wall. It just means it's a gate with a door. Okay. So sometimes you have that gate with the door where there's some boundaries. It doesn't mean I'm cutting you off all the time. Some people you need to cut completely off. Unfortunately, with my father, it was hard. I wavered back and forth whether I was going to cut him completely off multiple times. But then it's like God put on my heart, like, I'm some stuff out in him too. There's some stuff he needs to heal from. And if you cut him off, he's not going to get to the place I need him to get to heal from things he needs to heal from. So I said, okay, that was hard. I will be honest and say that was the first and last time I've ever been mad with God. I know that sounds crazy to say that, but I was angry because I felt like I have said sorry when I felt like I deserved an apology. I have overlooked things. I have known things that I shouldn't know, and I still love past those things I knew. It was just so many times where I'm like, I'm extending grace and he doesn't even know I'm extending grace. I know things and yet he's saying this and that. And so it was really hard for me. And I got really tired as you all were vocalizing. You got tired with your relationship and trying. And so I will say, I know my father has grown immensely from the person who would never say sorry, the person who would yell first and say you're wrong and wouldn't even listen to you. He would just turn off his ears. He's not that person anymore. He takes time to process things, even if he doesn't vocalize it at first. He said sorry at times when I really felt like I really needed to hear that, or maybe he needed to just admit it to himself that he was wrong on some things. But I will say, in terms of the wedding situation for when that day comes, I didn't know you were going to ask that question. Okay. You threw a curveball in there. All right. Put me on the spot. But, for a number of reasons, my grandfather, my maternal grandfather, who has passed away, he passed away in 2017. I will be honest, and I know it's going to be really harsh to say this, but for how he was, how I wanted a father to be, for a person who, if he could be protective, he would. I know him to be a protector because I know situations my mother went through where he was a protector. He was an advocate. He did stand by her side, So I feel like the protector, if my mom absolutely needed something, he was the provider, the person who always exhibited. He was proud when I didn't know how I was going to get through undergrad financially. He was like, if you want to stay in school, I'm going to make sure you stay in school. And he was there financially. Like, my grandfather, he was a man of few words, but when I, at the funeral, everybody was like, you're the granddaughter he always talked about. And it was just like, he talked a lot. I didn't even know he talked a lot. But they were like, he said you're a motivational speaker and you're this. He was always so proud because my mom always would keep him up on what I was doing and everything. And he was always so genuinely proud. And so that is really what I wanted in a father. And so I felt like when he passed away, especially because me and my father didn't talk most of 2017, I felt like I was mourning the loss of my father.
Right.
I did everything I wanted in a father. I felt like I was mourning the loss of my father, just as my mom was at the same time. And so after he passed away, like, a couple months, maybe a month or two later, my dad reached out to me. It was like, hey, and then start mending our relationship. And, he did things. We'd go on daddy-daughter dates and stuff like that, go get manicure, pedicure, that kind of stuff. But that's not really, I appreciate that because I knew that was his way of trying to mend our relationship. But when it comes to what I wanted in a father, it was just being emotionally available to me, showing that even if it was times where I was harmed, because as you all know, I have survived, I guess you could say, sexual abuse, molestation. I know that at times he wasn't physically around, or maybe the situation he couldn't necessarily be there to protect me, but at least show if in certain situations, like speak up on my behalf, be an advocate for me when it counts. That's what love is for me.
Yeah.
And so maybe his idea of love is, hey, I got money, so I'm gonna spend it. That doesn't really matter like that to me. I could go get my nails done. I can go buy myself my own food, pay my own bills. That stuff doesn't matter as much to me as being there for me when it counts. So I think that to answer your question, I battle with that. I honestly went to God about that because honestly, I'm like, I might have my mom walk me down the aisle. I ain't gonna lie to you.
My mom already told me that she doing it, and I keep trying to give her like,
just being honest.
Like, I don't know if I want you. I mean, I still want a man. I don't know, because the man who I call dad is not my dad. And if God, because Boaz ain't showed up anytime soon. So as long as that dad still remains with us, let that dad that I call dad be the one that gave me away. I want to mention this. I am getting to a spiritual aspect, and then we're gonna get to a mental aspect. Are we good? Are we still good, y'all? Are we still good?
Yeah, I'm fine.
People who are watching us, because I got my iPad.
People have questions.
Yeah, I've been asking. If you got questions, chime in. We don't want it just to be a three-way conversation. If you got something directly you want to ask Reverend Allen or Minister Ashley, or just this Johnson, go ahead and ask us. Feel free. This is meant to be dialogue. This is meant to be dialogue with you all. But on the spiritual aspect, I don't know if I could be the only one. I'm gonna say this slow, because the way I wrote it down was seeing God as Father. I feel I could be the only one. I could be on my island by myself. Maybe not. I feel like when you don't have a father in your life, we got a question. I'm gonna get to it. I feel like when you don't have a father in your life, as a Christian, it is hard to see God as Father. You can see God as Savior and Protector and Healer and all the other, adjectives and all the, honestly, roles. But it's hard to see God as Father because our physical father wasn't there to wipe our tears away. I even wanted to say, I said this off. I believe I want to say this with Alan. Alan messed me up, y'all. Okay, Alan's the reason why some of these questions came about. I admitted to Alan wholeheartedly, like impromptu. I can't believe I said it. I'm saying it again out on internet. I said that listening for the voice of God is sometimes hard because I'm not trying to get into about sex and all of that, but in the sense of all I heard all my life as far as parental was women, right? I had my grandfather. He was like, as you said, my grandfather was my father. And so it was easy. It's easy for me, is what I'm trying to say. It's easy for me to listen to the voice of a woman than it is for me to listen to the voice of a man, especially sometimes God at times, because the man's voice has been void in my life for so long. If I can really paint it, my granddad he raised me. He had me till he was 12, till he died at 12 years old. But I'm 31 now. So yeah, he was there for the foundational part of it. But now, even 12 years old is still, to me, is still foundational because you still don't know who you are. So the voice of God sometimes can be distant and hard for me to listen to because the voice of women is easy for me to tune into because mom and grandma and aunties and uncles have always been there. So my question has been, how has it been for you seeing God as Father when your physical father has not been in your life? I
Ashley,
hurt you with it, but I just gotta help the
Want me to
people.
start or you want to start?
you got it.
All right. Oddly enough, because I came to God in a state of desperation and depression as a teenager, because I did a 180. I wasn't the person that was raised in church. Yes, my father is a pastor and all that great stuff, but I witnessed his transformation going from unsaved to saved to minister to pastor. But on my mom's side, we really didn't go to church. I probably could count on my hands the number of times we went to church. Sunday was a day to get prepared for school and get my hair braided. That's what Sunday was. So when I came to God, it was like, I'm trying to find love because I got these daddy issues and I got some other issues. My mom got to work late, so I'm by myself. I'm sneaking people in the house, not people, the boyfriend I had at the time. Just all kind of almost end up pregnant. That's a whole nother story in the book. But anyways, I think that when I came to God in a state of desperation because I was depressed and didn't want to live anymore, and I was tired of people saying bad stuff about me at school because they thought I was the H word. I don't want to say that on the air, but they assumed that, but I was just really misunderstood and misguided and needed to find my identity. So when I went to a church service one night, when I was visiting my father, I went to a church and I ended up basically giving my life to God that night. Cause I was like, hey, if you're real, I know people are talking about you, but I need something because I keep trying other stuff and it's not filling this void. And I don't feel like I have a reason to live. I don't feel like I have an identity. And I felt this presence I never felt before. And all this weight I had on my shoulder lifted. And I instantly didn't care anything bad about what anybody had to say about me. It was just like, I just wanted everybody to know about this Jesus. And so I think because of that experience, because nobody forced me to go to church, because all of that, he answered me when I cried out. I instantly saw him as my covering, the love that I always needed and everything. I think the hard part was trust. And so everything else, I knew I was good on. I knew God could do this, and be that. But because I had this broken trust at times with my relationship with my father, it was like, and having to build, I told you for the first year, I didn't call him father or dad. I called him by his first name. So building this trust where it's like, I want control. There's certain things I can control. And sometimes things he wanted me to do, I needed to let go and trust him. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm there with it, because you might disappoint me. Because how many times did we experience disappointment with our fathers? And so if I don't have this expectation that you'll do it, I won't get disappointed. So I think that was the hard part of my relationship with viewing God the Father in that way.
That's good. It was kind of reinforced because I so desperately wanted a father. It is easy, and it continues to be easy for me to see God as Father. As Ashley said, though, the trust piece has always been hard, because just in general, I have an issue trusting people because people I was supposed to trust weren't trustworthy. And so like my prayer all the time is, Lord, help me to trust you, because look, God, I think I could do a lot on my own. And this is real transparent as a pastor. That's something I really wrestle with. Like, can God really handle my issues? So my issue wasn't seeing God as masculine, feminine, father, mother, whatever that may be, but can I trust God? Because so much of our understanding of bigger than us is our relationship with our parents. And my mother was a drug addict. My father, drug addict, sold drugs. Neither of them took care of me. The greatest sense of covering I had was my brother, who was 2 years older than me, and the lady down the road in the projects who would come feed us and make sure we were good. To me, that didn't provide a lot of security. And so I didn't grow up in church either. My mom thought the church people was like pimping. Like, she was like, we ain't dealing with them. They all bad. And I think it's funny that God has called me to be a pastor, because I'm like, and I have so many issues with the church, but here I am. And so I was like, God, like, you got to make yourself real to me in a tangible way, not like, oh, I can't read about it. I need you to show me. And throughout my life, God has shown me time and time again that God can be trusted. And so for me personally, the issue of God as Father isn't problematic, but I do know it is for a lot of people, particularly the woman. And so, yeah, definitely.
Oh yeah. I seen somebody in comment right as soon as I said what I said. They said they felt that. And I know as believers, you know, we hear God is Father all the time. So it wrestles with, we talk about this off air, that it wrestles with a lot of people sometimes because it's like, I can see him as everything else but God. You know, it is, and there's reason why. Let me just help people understand why, because I'm guilty of this. It's because we put our physical expectations that we have on our human father on God. But the reality is, you know, we've always been told that God can do the impossible. So beyond what our physical father didn't do, God can do that even still. I know sometimes I hear a question in my head, but I'm not going to answer it or even I'm going to say it, but I answer it, which is, if God made you my father, why would he, you know, because people always like to say, if God knew this, then why did he allow this to happen? As we've repeatedly said more than once, sometimes some things are maybe just best not for you to have. As much as you may desire to have that relationship, as much as you might be like me, as much as you may desire to have that reconciliation, it may not happen. And sometimes it's hurting you more than it's benefiting you by still desiring something that may not ever happen. But there was a question, and Brother Kenneth Winston Jr., I'm not sure. I'm not ignoring anything you are saying, my brother.
He's a member of my church. What's up, Brother Ken?
I don't want you to feel like she just ignored everything I said. No, not at all. You're saying some good stuff over there. Jalil has a question. And I'm gonna let y'all answer it. What do you do when you extend yourself to your father and they make promises to connect with you, but they fail to after many, and he put them in caps, many attempts?
One thing I think that is important for us to do is to try to seek understanding as best we can. Like it's been said time and time again, we don't know the whole story. We don't know why things are the way they are. And as Ken said, you know, they may not have had an example and don't know how to father. And so one of my biggest fears as a father personally is, what if I fail as a father? Even though I want to be the best father in the world, I ain't got no example of what it means to be the best father.
Yeah.
So it's scary when you put yourself out there and you already know you done messed up before, and your kids have even higher expectations of you. So I think part of it is seek understanding, pray for them, and then show them grace and show yourself grace. Because oftentimes we beat ourselves up. Well, I must be the issue. They don't want me. Something got to be wrong with me. And so the final thing I would say about that is you have to know that God is going to provide you with what you need, even in the absence of strong figures like father, mother, whoever that may be to you. It may not come how you want it, but he will provide it. And so you might want it through this medium, right? But God might provide a whole other way. Like, I always wanted a father, and I got one through being adopted and going through foster care. That wasn't my idea of receiving a father. However, God provided that to me. And he continues to provide in ways by giving me mentors, men in my life, right? But that wasn't how I expected it. And so, yes, you might want that from your earthly father, but God might say, oh, I'll give it to you in another form, because he might be protecting you. Because we want stuff a certain way, and that's not the best way we need it. It's like medicine. My little baby, oh, bless his heart, he got a little congested nose, right? He don't want me to suck the stuff out of his nose. I got that snot snucker thing, whatever it's called. He don't like that, but if I get a tissue, he fine. So if it comes in a certain way, he's fine with it. But
Come
if
on, preacher.
I know.
Come
in
on, preacher.
another way, he's like, what is going on? So you have to trust that God knows best for you. I know that's not a cute answer, but it's a faith element too. You can't see how God is going to do everything in your life, so you just got to trust. And that's kind of where I'm at with it, Jaleel. I hope that helps.
I agree with what you stated. Some things may not be best, and so even though for my situation I have a present father, I'm not saying if I reach out to him he's going to reject me. He's going to respond. But I realize there's boundaries I have to put, because if I open myself all the way back up, like I did time and time again, like open my heart, not just my conversation, not just my presence, but if I open my heart and my expectations up in certain areas, and it's like the mentality of certain things hasn't changed, and he never said it was gonna change. Maybe I assumed, I'm like, I'm disappointed again. I'm hurt again. Then I want to shut you out. Well, it was up to me to use wisdom. And so if wisdom says this happened X amount of times, so it may happen again, I'm not saying that can't possibly change. The only person I can change is me. The only person I can control is me. And in order for me to not keep getting disappointed, I have to use wisdom to say, this might happen again. So am I going to, for your situation, you want a relationship with your father, maybe it's just he'll answer the phone. Maybe he won't show up to a visit. Maybe he won't show up to a dinner. Maybe you just have to write him a letter, old school, whatever it is, just to keep that connection. But you may not get it like that. But I pray that God sends people in your life to fill that void, like he did with me and Alan. I have so many spiritual fathers. I do.
Well, I feel y'all on that one. And I was gonna tap into that a little messy, but maybe we'll do a part 2 for real. Because I think there comes. I'm sorry. I'm a teaser now, so we can agree on a part 2 one day in the future about.
Just let me know, Key.
About a spiritual father can be a little messy too, but we're gonna talk about being father spiritually in the right way. No, because let me just mean it this way, and I'm not trying to be messy, but sometimes we also have to understand that yes, God will give us things that we not wanted, but in a different way, like we've all mentioned. But sometimes we, not God, we try to fill the void of a father by making sometimes our spiritual leaders, our fathers who may not be gifted in fathering you. That's all I'm trying to say. There's some people who, like we all understand, there's ministers and there's different levels. And sometimes when you look at a pastor, their assignment in a minister can be slightly the same, but not quite the same, because there's a little small flock that necessarily minister doesn't quite. He's an assignment, right? The pastor has a whole church, like he has a whole bunch of people, and sometimes we think because they are a good leader for the whole church means that they have the capacity of also fathering you, or even if they're just a minister in your church, or whoever it may be. One of my goals is, if you're a person who is looking for a father role model, I would even dare to ask that person if they want to be your father. Don't put in your mindset to make somebody a father role model, or put that person as a placeholder as your father without even asking them for permission. Because sometimes what we see has actually helped me realize sometimes what we see something can just be a facade. What you see is a lot of us don't all show our business. We all ain't putting all our business on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram about our relationships with our father. And so I feel like sometimes people put themselves even worse to get hurt by making somebody a father role model who may not be having the capacity to father you. If y'all, then I ain't lose y'all.
No, that makes complete
sense. I love spiritual fathers. I have one. I do. And it is my pastor. And I have other fathers too that I just call them. They just straight my daddies. They just dad. I mean, for real. But because they've been there and they've seen all that has been in my life and has shaped me. But we just gotta be mindful of who we pick and choose. And I say that being careful because of the internet, and people be like, I heard on this show on Facebook that no, I did not validate that. No, I didn't. I did not validate that. But I do want to ask this because I don't want somebody to think we've been talking about daddies and we ain't say nothing about mental health. And that's a lie because Ashley definitely talked about going to see a counseling. But what ways have you or tools, coping skills, what have you done in order to protect your mental state of mind, even now, even after the mending, even after you made your decision that you're, I'm cool. This is where my relationship with my dad. What skills or ways of with mental health capacity have you done in order to be stable?
You could go, Alan.
All right, thank you. One of the things that was mandated as a child in foster care, you had to go to counseling, which I think was helpful. But even as a kid, you can learn how to just check the box to say you went and say what you need to say. As Ashley stated and Keandra as well have stated, I'm a pastor. I believe in the power of prayer. Some things require more than prayer. And so sometimes you need to seek out a professional. In seminary, I went to counseling. It was hard to do because when you've put something down in the closet, you got to go through all that stuff to bring it back out. But it was an intentional decision. And I caution people, do that when you're ready. Don't do it because people say you need to go to counseling. If you're not ready to go to counseling, it's best you don't go to counseling because counseling has a way. It's like being in the ring with Mike Tyson. You about to get toe up if you're not ready to be in that ring. And so I saw mental health counseling. I'm currently writing a children's book called Mikey's Story, and it is my story of my life and my relationship with my father or lack thereof. And so one way that I continue to get it out as an adult is to write about it. Another way in which I get it out is through formats like this. I love talking about fatherhood, Black fatherhood, our relationship with God and all of that, because it's a constant reminder for myself of what I want to be. And then the other piece that I believe is important when it comes to mental health perspective is embrace each moment as that moment. You're going to have good days and you're going to have days you like, oh, even when you've gone through a healing process. It's like after you got surgery, you still got aches and pains. But that don't mean you ain't going through the rehabilitation process. So for me, I remember I got a call that my dad had like a hole in his stomach and was potentially about to die, my biological father. And y'all, that it tore me up in a way because I was just torn. I wasn't like hurt, but I wasn't happy. I was torn. Like, so what if this is the day my dad dies? How do I respond? And I just embraced that gray. I didn't try to seek an answer. I said, all right, God, this is where I'm at. Help me. I know what I should say and I know what I shouldn't, but this is what I'm feeling. And so if we embrace it for what it is, a moment in a time, I think that has helped me. And I don't try to come at easy conclusions. I wrestle with the complexity of this because it's complex. It impacts you in complex ways. I mean, Jesus, like I'm 30 and I still deal with my father not being there. And I've gone through a healing process. I've had conversations. I myself am a father, but I have decided to embrace each day as it comes and be real. If you angry, be angry. If you're broke,
I said it last night. Be angry.
Sad. If you need to cry, cry. Like that will help you get through so much. And especially young Black men, let me talk to you. You don't have to feel like you gotta have it together.
Come on.
You don't. No one's perfect. Even You know, Jesus had issues with what God had him doing. He said, Lord, if it be your will, let this cup pass from me. And so we can go to God with real issues because we serve a real God. And so we got to be okay with being broken. If you was perfect, you'll be all right. There's a reason why you're not all right. Embrace your brokenness, not as a means to have a pity party, but as a means of embracing who God has created you to be. And when you do that, you will realize you have so much more joy. I used to be at a place where I was ashamed of my brokenness. I was ashamed of my story. I was ashamed of how God continues to write out my story. I remember in second grade, my teacher, Miss Russ, she pissed me off. And yes, I'm saying she pissed me off. She told my whole class that I was in foster care. I'm in second grade. And I was embarrassed by that. You don't do that. I was embarrassed by that. But now I can personally attest, probably everybody who know me know I was in foster care. And so personally, that has become a part of my testimony. And now God uses that for me to connect with people, right? And so I understand now in the larger scheme of things that my brokenness can be used not just for my benefit, but for some other people's benefits if I use it as God has blessed me to use it.
Amen.
I love the fact that you went and talked to the black man, because the black man needed to hear another black man say that. So thank you, AI. Thank you. But Ashley, go and chime in for us, sister. We need a tag team.
I didn't forget the question. I was so wrapped up in the sermon that was going on. I'm like, I need all this.
Oh, you know what? Where did I do my question? Hold on. Oh, snap.
The question is, how do you take care of yourself from a mental health perspective?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
I would definitely say that I'm big on creating new moments. I have, some traumatic moments in my life. And sometimes, those memories can play in my head, but something that one of my spiritual mentors taught me to do is create new moments, make new moments. So I always, whatever you want to call it, a bucket list, a living list, whatever. Like just last week when I took some time off for myself, I went horseback riding. I try to do things to create new memories. And so whether it's by myself or getting a group of friends or, I try to do things to have fun. I mean, you basically touched on everything. I do want to say this for some people who are struggling with things that have happened. I love how you said, if you're angry, be that, because sometimes we feel guilt in owning, I feel this way. No, I don't like you. No, you didn't step up. No, you weren't present. And it hurt me. And so I wrestled with guilt, like, oh my gosh, I can't say that because I will be a bad daughter. I will be a bad this. But that's my reality. And it affected me. And so on that, because
Ashley, wait 1 second. AI, can you hear her for a minute?
I can, yes, ma'am.
It went in and out on my side.
Okay.
Keep talking.
But a big thing I learned is and something I always tell people, you cannot heal from what you don't acknowledge. So you sweep things under the rug. You sweep things, it's not going to help you. You're not going to heal. And God needs us to be our authentic self. He doesn't need us to be the great pretender. He needs us to be real and honest. That's how we can overcome. And so I think that's really what helped me. Also, writing has helped me too. I've written now multiple books and art. I'm an artist, so I draw before I start speaking out. Some things I've overcame. I drew it. I painted it. And then speaking on platforms, not just ministering, but motivational speaking, especially speaking to kids. I needed somebody to speak to me and my brokenness as a teenager, especially. So just giving back, that helps me. It helps me continue to put things behind me and move forward as I'm helping other people. So.
Well, listen, guys, I told y'all we can go over it, and I know you guys said you were willing to. Hold on. There's a lot of conversation. If y'all don't mind looking, if y'all get a chance, come back. I do want to let me tag into some of this that's being said. Let me at least say thank you for all those who have been in and on the conversation. I personally, they know I didn't have intentions of no 2-hour show. I did not. But the goal in mind was, as I said earlier, was to get freedom. It was to get a peace of mind, and it was to bring collectively people together to feel like you're not alone in this situation and to bring help. And so I'm appreciating that you're chiming in. And so, Brother Kenneth, I'm gonna say something that you said, and I'm gonna work my way down for a little bit. He said earlier, and I didn't get a chance to. It's still relevant. He said, "Oh, as failing as a father would happen, and that's the beauty of fatherhood. Our kids understand failing and learning from that failure leads to growth and better fathering calls when we have to learn our kids and love them through the learning, thus passing their information on to them when they become fathers or mothers." Ashley, I'm not Ashley. I don't know why I said Ashley. I think it might have been between Ashley speaking and AI speaking. Jessica said, "This helped me realize I blame my mom more than my father." She says both parents was absent, but I accepted my father back, not fully. Here we're getting some. Y'all, do y'all feel it? We're getting some freedom here, y'all. We getting some. Jaleel, who come back and said, "I thank God for my father. I do know that growing up there wasn't an emotional connection, but after I had become an adult, I learned certain things that were inner wounds, and spiritually, God had to give me wisdom on how to love and grow with my own personal father." That's just kind of going back to earlier when we talked about what part do we play. You know, when I know a lot of us are like we don't, but sometimes we do. Not that we have to, but we do. If that makes any sense. Oh, okay. I had to make sure I was understanding this correct. Mr. Charlie Gatewood Jr., he said the Christians are taught to sweep it under the rug. And I believe to some degree, if it's Christians, but also Black people, because we didn't say it tonight, and we said it every night last time in May, where that was what stays in his house.
What happens in this house?
What stays in this house. We said that a lot in May show. And that's just culturally. I'm learning now that that's not just Black people. I'm learning now that thing crossing other cultures as well. I'm learning from my light-skinned brothers and sisters. They telling me mom and daddy taught them the same thing. So that's true. So I'm not going to delay the time for those who made it just jumped in. You definitely want to catch the live. I think it's been great yet this far. It's a Black thing. I believe it's a Black thing, but we're not going to hear to argue on that, whether it's churchy or whether that's the cultural thing. But I wanted to. It was one more thing, but I think you tell me yes or no if we mentioned this or not. On ways to restore, Ashley. I know that was really my big thing with you was on ways to restore a relationship with a father. Now, did you? I don't feel I
don't think so. I think it's just having real conversations. I think both parties have to be willing to participate because you can't force if they're not ready. No, because naturally, if we open up and have real dialogue and it's not something you want to hear, we can get defensive. We can back into corners. But if we are willing to open up and have dialogue and not just say, you did this, you did, just say, I feel this way or whatever the case. Can we sit? Like with my dad, he knew he messed up after us not talking for a whole year. He knew I was hurt. But he was like, he eased it in because I know I could come in like a bulldog. Like, so, I didn't do that because I was like, he's trying. He actually picked up the phone, not knowing what I was about to say. And he wanted to sit down, have a daddy-daughter date and have a conversation. I'm going to allow it and we'll go from here. So I think it's both parties have to be willing participants. And then you take baby steps. Don't expect everything all at once. You may not get everything ever, but take baby steps to gradually grow the relationship.
I appreciate it. I needed that because I was like, I got all these notes everywhere, and sometimes you get lost in your notes. When y'all preaching, I'm not me, but when you're preaching, you get lost in your notes. It's a shuffle. Before I get off, I won't. If there's anything that y'all want to add in that I may have forgot, because like I said, I'm being obedient to time, y'all. I'm being, I already, y'all gonna speak because,
I just want to thank Pastor Reverend Allen for and Mike for being a part of this show, because as I stated to Keandra, oftentimes the women are vocal, oftentimes the women show up, the women are present, the women are the supporters, but that's a part of the problem. We need men, the presence of men. You know, a lot of our youth, especially guys and girls, are misguided because of the absence of the man. Yep. And so I thank you for your transparency, because it's needed. And I think it even helped me and Keandra in certain ways to hear your perspective, you know, in the absence of a father.
God bless you. Thank you.
That's real. AI, you got any last words? Anything? I love you, friend. I do. I do. I love you so much. And there was something that just popped in my head. It was from a conversation we had, and I can't even think. So you talk. I'm gonna think on it. But
one of the things I just think about is we think about this holistically from a Black perspective, mental health perspective. I'm reminded of Frederick Douglass, who said, "It's easier to build strong children than to repair broken men." Mm-hmm. And so we as a community, as a collective, we have to do our part to ensure that we are building strong children. Not that the work of repairing broken men isn't necessary, but we would alleviate a lot of unnecessary work if we did right in the first place. And so all of us, men, women, boys, girls, Black, white, whatever, we have to do our part in ensuring that the Black family structure is protected, it is upheld, and it is honored as it needs to be, because there's an attack on Black families. We ain't got to have a PhD to recognize that. And it's not a new attack. It's just painted in a new way. And so we've seen this time and time again. And one of the things that I love about our ancestors is that they were willing to fight. And we got to be willing to fight. Our fight might look different, but we got to do our part to ensure that it's not the responsibility of the child to do this work. It's the adult's responsibility to do this work. And so we can't negate our responsibility just because we get a couple degrees and we make it out the hood. Nah, because the truth is intersectionality is real and it impacts us all. Because them still your cousins, you still got to go and deal with them. When you go to family reunion and they fighting at the family reunion, or somebody, you got to go pick them up from the hospital, or you got to put money on their books. So we absolutely have to make sure we do our part in ensuring that the Black family structure gets back to a place of prominence within our community. Because if we don't fight for ourselves, ain't nobody gonna fight for us. And so it's like Malcolm. I love Martin, but I really love Malcolm. By any means necessary.
Come on.
we negate our responsibility in so many ways. Well, I'm good. That's never been the Black way. That's never been the right way. Yeah, you good, but guess what? If you the only one good, eventually they're gonna come get what you got that's good. Mm-hmm. So we need to make sure that we do our part. Church, unchurched, gay, straight, rich, poor, whatever it may be, we got to do our part. Because when we think about it, our aunties, our uncles, our big mamas, they all stepped in when it was necessary, and we got to be willing to do that as well. And as adults, this is a different part of the segment, and I'm done. We have to be comfortable, and I'm grateful for Brother Ken. We have to be comfortable with recognizing that we're imperfect humans and acknowledging our wrong and apologizing. Because a lot of our parents said, I ain't got to apologize to you, you the kid. They can't never be wrong. No, Negro, you wrong. And so you got to acknowledge your part in this. And so that's one of my things as a parent that I'm learning, and I only been in this game 10 months. Pray for me, because every day I feel like, whoo, but I got to acknowledge my wrong. I got to acknowledge where I fall short, and I got to apologize to my kids because I've done wrong. And in apologizing to them, that lets them know that it's okay to be wrong and you can reconcile wrong in the event that wrong takes place.
That is so good.
Look at preaching on a Tuesday.
That's why we needed men present on this too. It's just
Lord.
we're not bashing men, we're not bashing fathers. These are just our perspectives. There's wonderful Black fathers, there's wonderful fathers. We're just speaking out from our personal experience.
Mm-hmm.
And we needed to, because actually you'll come out and say whatever last things I didn't share with you. I want you to share with the people. I feel like sometimes, that's why I just want to train my thought that quick. The reason why this is called the state of mental health in the Black community wasn't just for Black people to chime in, but it was also for brothers and sisters who don't look like us, because sometimes they don't understand. Like, they might not have dad in the household with them. You know, we always assume that they do. But even with them having a disconnect sometimes with their dad or not in the household, their relationship still doesn't look like ours.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pulling out, y'all. I'm trying to pull this out. But there are sometimes we got the bitter baby mama syndrome. Hold on, let me tell you that. I hate the word baby mamas. Sometimes we have the bitter mother syndrome, who then doesn't allow you to have the relationship with your father. Then therefore it becomes an absence of the father because of your mother, not of your father. But that's gonna be a part 2 conversation, because we can't do that tonight, y'all. We can't. I promise y'all. But we gotta acknowledge that plays a part in it.
Mm-hmm.
Some things that we didn't mention tonight, I'm gonna say this, and actually I want you to chime in, is that the absence of the father, also we talked about, mentioned earlier shortly, we didn't mention a lot. Drugs has a lot to do with the absence of the father. Being in prison has a lot to do with being the absence of the father. The way our laws are made has a lot to do with the absence of the father. Homosexuality, let's call it what spade is spade, people. And that also goes back to the family structure. The family that I was raised up on was, you get a mom. Well, let's do this. American says the family structure is supposed to be a mom, a dad. Was it a mom, dad, and a kid, and a possible? It's a 1.5, situation kid. I don't get that. It's supposed 1.5 kid. You supposed to have, is a kid coming or what? But the family structure has also been messed up because of that too. But we didn't talk about that. And I know people don't want to talk about, like, oh, we talking about homosexuality. It has a lot to do with the family structure that we have right now. You don't want to accept it what it is what it is. But that's going to be another day, another time. Ashley, anything that you want to share, your last words, thoughts, feel free.
No, I think it's been a great conversation. I feel like Alan has forced more transparent. I don't know why I went into this shell like a turtle tonight almost. I think I don't know, it's hard. People don't realize it's hard to be very honest in front of a group of audience that may or may not know you and share things about your experiences with your own family and your life, because it's not like you're coming from a bitter place or evil place. These are just honest conversations that a lot of people are struggling with, and they don't want to talk about it openly, either because they're not free from it, or again, they would feel guilt by talking about it, especially when it comes to the relationship with the parents. But I commend you, Keandra, for continuing to have these conversations, and thank you for giving me a platform to speak, to promote my books, but to more so have these conversations that are needed.
Now, before you get off, I want you to name the books, the 2 that's in print already, and give us again the date and the name again for the book that is coming before you get off.
So I will start with the book that's coming up. My 3rd book is being released Monday, August 31st. It will be on Amazon and Kindle. If you look me up, my name is right there below, right here, Ashley M. Bennett. If you look me up on Amazon, that's how you will see my name on Amazon. The new book is called Layers and Levels: The Freedom of Forgiveness. All right. And I will talk about the complexities of forgiveness and how it can feel like a process before you actually let go. It may not be a quick overnight situation, and don't feel guilt in that. And so that's the 3rd book that's coming out. My 1st book is Not Easily Broken: Turning Hidden Shame into Distant Memories. And that talks about my childhood all the way through my early 20s, overcoming sexual abuse, bullying and abandonment issues, and finding a relationship with God in the midst of all that, and turning a tragedy into a triumph. And then my second book is 6 Years and Counting, A Journey of Celibacy While Waiting for Marriage, because I posed the question in church, hey, how do you stop having sex after you had sex already? I'm struggling, help me. And then the drummer at church said, I don't know, because I'm having sex and I don't plan to stop. The drummer at the church who was serving in the church. So I'm like, y'all ain't helping me, all right? All y'all having sex on the high, not on the low. And y'all are not helping me who's trying to walk this thing out pure. And I keep cycling back to this thing God doesn't want me to do. So I wrote that book to help people who are choosing to be celibate when it's not a popular decision. And again, my third book is about forgiveness. It will fill in a lot of things that I didn't talk about in my first book, in the process I had to go through to forgive and overcome certain things. So,
and look, her books are easy reads, y'all. They're great. Now, look, she make them easy to read, but they pack with so much. Like, you can read them quickly, but then I feel like you still need to go back and be like, did she really like? Like, I'm not lying, they good. And I'm not saying that because she's my childhood friend, but like, I read them quickly, and I'm like, hold on, I'm gonna need to go back to this page because I really did just say, oh no, she really said that. But go and support her. I'm not just saying it because she's a friend. I'm saying it because realness and rawness is what you can get out of her books. And sometimes you buy these big, thick books that be like, you could have just said that in this. Like, so in reality, is her books may be small, but they're impactful and they're great. And go support one of our own. AI, let people know how they can find you. I don't know if you interact so much on social media, but if somebody wanted to, find you, what have you, or just carry another conversation with you on, how can they find you there?
Yes, ma'am. This is my name, Alan Irizarry Graves. You can find me on Facebook. I'm so old. That's it. Facebook. Also, you can, if you want some sermons, just type my name on YouTube. And you can follow my church, New Hope Baptist Church, North Little Rock, Conway, Arkansas, on Facebook, just to get connected to our ministry. If you hit me up on Facebook, I will respond. I may not respond immediately. I won't respond immediately, but I will get back to you. And so, yeah, I love having these conversations. It isn't a burden to me. This is why I feel God has partially put me on this earth for, to have these conversations. And so if anyone wants to connect, feel free to hit me up on Facebook or get my number from Keandra, whatever. It don't matter.
No, the wifey said no. Y'all got a new baby. Y'all still don't need them phone calls. No, same stuff. But if y'all look, there's somebody that says they're so excited about the next live. This has helped them so much. And this, you are what we desire to do. It was not about long. It was not about number of people watching it, though I will be looking at the numbers once I get it all, because I do know people were popping in and out. I even saw somebody's name that looked like they might have been international that jumped in. They were there for a minute. Watch it in, but people who are still watching and still on, who have watched, share it again. Let us know what you liked out of this. I want feedback. I never do ask, but I do want feedback. But I do want to tease tomorrow's show. I'm not lying when I say every night is a fire show. Yesterday I was a little disconnect because I was a little late. I literally had 5 minutes to jump on before we was live yesterday, but today I'm more prepared. But last night we talked about police and brutality. Police, oh my God, brutality and racism. My mind. Tonight we're talking about the absence of father and family structure. But oh my goodness, and it's just crazy. Tomorrow we're talking about the high infant mortality rate amongst us African-American women. And listen, when I tell you, I talk to them just like I talk to y'all one-on-one, but mistakenly, we all got on the same live practice test run. I have a young lady who's sharing her story. I have an African-American Christian woman who is a Black doula. She'll be on. And then I got a therapist in the room because, we need some therapy in the room. Now, it's a wonderful thing to have ministers in the house. And it's another thing where we can tag team this thing with ministers and some professional counseling. All right. Yeah. Tomorrow we start again at 6 o'clock. Thursday, I got another young lady talking about conceiving children. That's on Thursday and Friday. I saw Carlos was on here. Carlos is going to be talking about being in prison and then being rehabilitated back into society. This man is spending his whole life now since he's been out himself, helping other inmates get out and then back into society. Listen, y'all, we ended out with Queen Cookie, who was on here earlier, and she probably still watching. She's ended out talking about suicide on Saturday. This is a week that you just want to be hitting those reminders. You don't want to miss it. Catch the replays for those who joined last minute. And I got to say, Ashley, Alan, we good?
We good.
Thank you.
See y'all.
You said what?
I said, see y'all.
I appreciate your help. Thank you so much. And we're going to end this in 1, 2, 3.